A little while back, I made a video talking about the hidden lore and connections between the storytelling of Free Houses and the stats, skills, boons and banes of the game's many characters. And in true Fodlan fashion, the rabbit hole here goes even deeper than initially believed, and as such, I have more than enough left in the tank to tackle this topic once more, partly because of your great and informative comments. That said, if you haven't seen that first video, go check it out and then come back, because I will be referring back to that on occasion here and there. Let's once again start with the Black Eagle house, zooming in on Bernadetta this time around. I don't think the word hidden entirely applies to her interest in the craft of archery, an obvious preference of hers as a result of her desire to not get too close to other people. What had completely passed me by though is that her hidden talent writing further plays into this crucial character element of hers. Shout out to Chenchi Stars for pointing this out, although it really is Bernadetta herself who put us all onto this. Because even in Free Houses itself, she will suggest you as Byleth change her studies to writing in order for her to stay away from people even more, which is a sentiment she repeats in Fire Emblem Heroes. Her Brave alt, which is a horse-riding bow unit itself, cites the same reasons why she prefers being a cavalry unit over infantry. Next, I want to focus on a trio of units, one from each house: Ferdinand, Ingrid and Leonie. Do you know what they have in common? All three of them don't have a single bane. At absolute worst, they're neutral at a skill. There's nothing they're not at least capable at. And when looking at these three characters, I think the argument could definitely be made that this is supposed to reflect how each of them is probably the most studious member of their house. Ferdinand is constantly trying to improve and wants to be the best in literally everything, something that definitely mirrors Ingrid as well, who may not have Felix beat when it comes to outright training dedication, but she is easily more study focused, i.e. with a broader lens. Leonie is probably the biggest weak point of this theory, as Ignaz is not exactly one to flake his studies either, but there is definitely more dedication towards improving with Leonie than Ignaz, I'd say. Plus, she's probably the more capable overall physical talent. And yeah, the Ashen Wolves don't have any members without Banes unfortunately, so they're left out of this group, but that doesn't mean there is nothing to say about them. As Meme1024 points out, for example, Yuri is allergic to animals as mentioned in his A support with Marianne in Free Hopes. That would fully explain his weaknesses in riding and flying, although he does technically say that he is only allergic to horses and cats, which would exclude wyverns of course. But it's not like they keep the stables for these animals far away from one another, so I wouldn't fault him for just saying he won't go anywhere near there. And while we're on the Ashen Wolves, the big mystery of the video also is about one of their members. Last time it was Anna and why her boons and banes are as strange as they are, which we now actually have the answer to, more on that later, but today I'm asking the public for help on Constance. This classy noble lady has a hidden talent for brawling. Aside from the fact that this is hilarious, obviously, the question remains why? I guess having a completely unexpected side to her is perfectly in character, and perhaps you could say she has spent a little too long hanging with Balthus, but none of those explain why she would be naturally good at it. It can't be from her crest either, as Noah is said to have been proficient at magic, just like Constance herself actually. But yeah, it's a mystery as far as I'm concerned, so leave your theories in the comments below. And as for the answers to our previous Anna mystery, I have to say, Per0263 came with what I am willing to call the definitive solution. To refresh your memory, Anna's boons are swords, axes, bows and faith, which are not so coincidentally the talents of the previous incarnations / sisters of the larger Anna community. Awakening Anna comes pre-packaged with a weapon rank in swords and staves, Fate's Anna uses bows, and Hero's Anna is known for her axe Noaton. Put all of these together and you get the exact boons of Free Houses Anna, which has to be intentional. Even Engage Anna lines up with this pattern, as she joins your party using axes, just like the version from Asker. I want to continue with some more Academy units, like Cyril. It was probably the addition most pointed out in the comments the last time around, so I'm not exactly sure who to credit, but Cyril's lack of talent in both reason and faith, despite his strong connection and devotion to Rhea, is undoubtedly a reference to the fact he can't read or write. He flat out says this in his B support with Lysithia, but it can also be seen in the advice box, where all his questions are drawings instead of written out. I want to take a quick step away from skills and stats towards magical abilities next, as we take a look at Catherine. I don't mean her sword when I say she handles a Thunderbrand. Literally everything about this woman appears to revolve around lightning and thunder. They don't call her Thunder Catherine because she's good with fire, you know? Except that they do. Because should you decide she should focus on reason, despite her complete lack of talent in the skill, you will find that her spell list consists of Fire, Bolganone and Ragnarok, and not Thunder or Thoron as you might expect. This may be for balancing reasons, although considering the game already pretty strongly discourages you from sending Catherine down this path, I would say that a nice little nod to her lightning talent wouldn't have felt out of place. And while we're talking about magic, let's once again zoom in on Dimitri, just like we did last time. To summarize, back then we discussed how Dimitri's complete lack of magical abilities runs in the family, with multiple generations being helpless at it. And it's not just a gameplay bane, it's also shown in supports, for example. However, as was pointed out by several of you, the idea of this bane running in the family is actually quite ironic when looking at the oldest member of the family we know, Bladith himself. As a member of the 10 Elites, he appears in the final chapter of Verdant Wind as a Dark Knight, i.e. a magic user. And to make matters even more inconsistent, his spell of choice here is Sagate, which is a bit of an unclear spell, but what we do know is that it's dark magic that involves firing off arrows. And it is absolutely nothing like the magic his descendant Dimitri can use, which are thunder variants, which have historically in the series not even been dark magic in the first place. Another fun fact about Bladith: he is the only member of the 10 Elites who cannot face one of his crest-bearing descendants, as you obviously can't use Dimitri to fight him in the Golden Deer route. Now, Claude is also a descendant of Bladith, but he doesn't have his crest. We have some more focus on Claude and Dimitri, but also Edelgard and even Yuri as house leaders coming up next, as we look at the lovely stat that is Charm. It has historically always been the stat to indicate someone is a great, convincing leader, and Free Houses is no exception. Like I said, all 4 house leaders have a high charm growth and stat cap, as well as Byleth, who may not be the most talkative figure in Fodlan, but can date literally anyone in this game. I'd say that requires quite a large amount of charming capabilities. Hilda also has a high charm stat, as also mentioned in a previous video, and another one that definitely isn't a surprise is Rhea, who is not playable in Free Houses, but does have stats. Plus, she does appear as a unit in Free Hopes, in which she also has a ridiculously high charm stat. Out of all the regular, non-Lord, non-Hilda units though, the award for highest charm stat goes to Petra, and that is not a coincidence. Because don't forget, she may not have a crest, but Petra too is royalty of the island of Bridget and will in the future become their queen, making a high charm very fitting. Someone who has a surprisingly middling charm stat on the other hand is Shez, the main character from Free Hopes. It's not terrible or anything, don't get me wrong, but it pales in comparison to Byleth. This could possibly be a nod towards the support system of this warrior spin-off, as while Shez can definitely build bonds with plenty of characters, they cannot romance anyone, and are on average not as well liked by their peers as Byleth is, I would say. As such, you could say they're simply not as good charmers. And while we're on Free Hopes, this game also allows us some insight into a character that could have been perfectly tackled in the last video, but was completely brushed over: Rodrigue. As we discussed in the last video, reason is both Felix's hidden talent as well as a weakness, which of course draws up intrigue. Back then, I theorized it could be because while he's actually very good at it, he doesn't have any interest in it. But when looking at Rodrigue, another possible explanation pops up. Because similar to his son, Rodrigue is really good at magic and has high growth rates in it, especially resistance. As such, it is also possible that Felix doesn't want to dip into that talent out of fear of becoming too much like his father, who he definitely has a rocky relationship with. And this becomes all the more likely when looking deeper into why Rodrigue is good at magic. It's to compensate. It's compensation for how poor King Lambert and later Dimitri are at it. And that especially I could see being a problem for Felix. Having to focus on magic because the boar sucks at it, that could definitely explain a lack of interest in the skill. And that has been everything I could find this time around. Do you have any more neat little references and facts you know of? Feel free to share them in the comments once again. I doubt there is enough for a third edition, but never say never. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Fire Emblem content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.